could do what previous governments have done, which is to sweep those challenges under the carpet, to cut capital spending to make the numbers add up, but then we'd be back here in a year or in 5 years' time.
Rachel Reeves just flipped Britain's tax system, and the backlash is explosive. Her latest moves on wealth are destroying confidence and igniting a nationwide firestorm. Trouble is brewing in Britain's economy. Rachel Reeves promises a fairer system, but she won't say if a full wealth tax is coming. Instead, she unveils targeted measures aimed at the richest. That alone has shaken the public debate. Critics are already sounding the alarm. Ordinary citizens are left wondering who will pay next, and what Reeves does next could change everything. Then came the bombshell. Reeves abolished the UK's long-standing non-dom regime. It's one of the country's most significant tax changes in years, ending a system that allowed some wealthy foreign residents to avoid UK tax on overseas income. This isn't a rumour, it's official policy. The move instantly repositions Labour as a government willing to take money from the very top end of society. It also sparks early speculation about whether Reeves is preparing the ground for a broader, wealth-focused future. But the non-dom move is only the opening act. What follows is even more shocking for those managing complex assets, and the tension escalates further. Labour plans to raise billions without technically calling it a tax rise. There are speculations that Reeves increases HMRC funding specifically so the department can chase unpaid and underreported taxes. Treasury reports estimate the UK loses over £30 billion a year to the tax gap, and HMRC is now tasked with recovering an additional £5 to £6 billion annually by tightening checks on offshore accounts, rental income, shell companies, trusts, and high-value assets. If it's true, then it's wild. Economists warn the crackdown may hit freelancers and small businesses who already struggle with rising costs, while Labour argues the priority is fairness, to close loopholes before raising taxes directly. But the scale of enforcement raises a new question. Who will be next under the microscope? Economists warn small business owners and freelancers could feel the pressure, yet Labour insists fairness comes first. And just as the crackdown begins, the next confirmed measures hit the headlines. The next shift arrives quietly, but dramatically. In the 2025 budget, Reeves raises dividend tax, property income tax, and savings income tax by 2 percentage points. These are confirmed measures, documented in Treasury publications and reported by outlets such as Reuters.
They did put taxes up, after weeks of reports about a giant black hole in the finances that the Chancellor would just have to fill, except it didn't exist.
The government frames them as targeted reforms aimed at rebalancing the system away from wages and toward investment-based income. Even so, these changes reignite the central debate. Are these adjustments alternatives to a wealth tax, or early building blocks for one? And the story intensifies with the next policy shift. The situation becomes more charged when Reeves confirms a high-value council tax surcharge on properties over £2 million starting in 2028.
The state pension is rising so much that by 2027 it will be higher than the frozen tax-free allowance. It will mean that millions of pensioners will be forced to pay income tax on their state pension income for the very first time.
Some call it a mansion tax expansion. Others see it as part of a broader push toward taxing assets more directly. Regardless of interpretation, the policy is real, confirmed, and controversial. Supporters argue it reallocates tax pressure fairly. Critics warn it may deter overseas buyers or push investment into other markets. Yet even after this announcement, Reeves still does not directly state whether a full wealth tax is coming. That silence fuels the next wave of frustration and scrutiny. Meanwhile, the real crisis isn't a wealth tax, it's the uncertainty. Reeves refuses to rule it out, dismissing it one week, then claiming those with the broadest shoulders should pay more the next. Opposition MPs accuse her of hiding intentions. Commentators describe inconsistency. No full wealth tax exists, yet the mixed messaging sparks suspicion and public frustration, dividing voters in ways the government did not foresee. What comes next could determine public confidence in Labour, and the complexity deepens. Labour introduces strict reporting rules for trusts and offshore structures. From 2026, high-value trusts holding UK property or investments must disclose full ownership to HMRC. This closes long-standing loopholes used by wealthy families. Analysts say the changes could generate millions over the coming years, while estate planners warn large family offices may need major restructuring. The policy reshapes wealth management without raising tax rates. But this is only adding more tension. How will the wealthy respond? Want more shocks? Hit subscribe. But hold on, because another bombshell emerges. One more confirmed policy adds complexity and controversy to the overall picture. Labour's fiscal documents outline plans to reduce the higher rate pension tax relief that wealthier earners previously benefited from. Under the revised structure, relief becomes more evenly distributed, with high earners receiving less tax support for pension contributions than before. The Treasury argues the change is meant to rebalance the system, where the highest earners receive disproportionate benefits. Analysts warn it could discourage long-term saving among professionals in higher tax bands. The policy does not introduce a wealth tax, but it reinforces a pattern. The financial burden is increasingly shifting toward investment income, assets, and higher-earning groups. And that pattern is exactly what investors, economists, and political opponents point to as evidence of an approaching wealth-based system, even if no such system has been formally announced. This uncertainty keeps investors on edge. Shock spreads across business communities. Concerns rise that the UK could become less competitive. Financial reporting highlights ministers admitting worries that some billionaires are considering relocation in response to the evolving tax environment.
And they're also looking at your private pension pot, with plans to slash the 25% tax-free lump sum many of us rely on in retirement. Your home could also be a major target. The Treasury is mulling a massive council tax overhaul, which could see bills double for homes in Bands G and H.
However, there is no official data confirming any mass exodus or measurable link between moves abroad and Reeves' policies. Still, the concern itself is real. Major investors demand clarity about future taxation, and the uncertainty amplifies political pressure. Each new policy fuels speculation that more may follow. And now, the next move by Labour carries even greater weight. The nation reacts, and it's split. Many workers cheer, claiming the wealthy should contribute more after years of economic strain. Others warn that small business owners, landlords, and anyone with investment income could be hit. Confusion over a possible wealth tax heightens anxiety. People wonder, is this targeting the ultra-rich only, or is everyone next? And the tension escalates toward the harshest criticism yet. This is where the destroyed narrative originates. It comes from a communications failure. Opposition MPs accuse Reeves of dodging questions. Commentators say she sparked unnecessary panic. Economists argue that the lack of clarity weakens business confidence during an already fragile recovery. The government insists its decisions are targeted and fair, but the criticism becomes a political weight that Reeves struggles to shift as the debate grows louder. And the story is far from over. Another dimension of the debate becomes clear when looking at Labour's self-imposed fiscal rules. Reeves has committed to reducing debt as a share of GDP within 5 years while fully funding day-to-day spending through taxation rather than borrowing. The Office for Budget Responsibility confirms that these rules leave almost no room for large increases in public spending without raising additional revenue. This constraint explains why Reeves is leaning on targeted tax changes rather than borrowing to invest. It also explains why the wealth tax debate refuses to fade. Asset-based taxes are one of the few remaining options the government could turn to under its own fiscal framework. And that brings the conversation to its final, unresolved question, which might throw us all out. And here's the bottom line. Reeves has raised taxes on investment income, property income, and high-value homes. She's ended the non-dom system and tightened offshore and trust rules. But she hasn't introduced a full wealth tax, so the tension remains. What happens next depends on the economy, MPs, and Labour's own fiscal limits.
I can announce today, fully costed and fully funded, the removal of the two-child limit in full from